Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Scotland at 7 with me, Gordon Ross. It's the 23rd of November. Joining me in the studio this evening, we have a lone guest in the form of Sam Payton. Sam, welcome back to the programme.
Hi, Gordon. What's happened to everybody? Have they all disappeared and went into lockdown?
I don't know. I think everybody's locked down. It's just you and me tonight, Sam, so we're going to have to work a bit harder than usual. You all right there, Sam?
Yeah,
Anyway,
I'm here.
Sam, straight away to the coronavirus update. As of 2 o'clock today, a total of 1,138,326 people in Scotland have been tested through NHS Scotland labs and UK government regional testing centres. Of these, 1,049,016 were confirmed negative, where 89,310 were positive. There are now 949 new confirmed cases of COVID-19, but there are no new reported deaths of people who have tested positive today. This will be an underestimate of the number of cases. Not everyone with the virus will display the symptoms, and not all of those with symptoms will be tested. Of the people who have tested positive, 1,208 were in hospital last night, 84 of whom were in intensive care. The number of patients in Scotland who died from complications caused by coronavirus COVID-19 infections now stands at 3,503. This number only includes those who have died in hospital, having received a positive test for the virus. The latest UK daily figures published today show that 55,230 patients who tested positive for COVID-19 have now sadly died from their illness, an increase of 206 since yesterday. And this number refers to deaths in all settings and not just hospitals. Now, if you'd, sorry, I'm just going to read a brief coronavirus update, which we just had come in, which is changes to the protection levels. East Lothian is to move down a level, but Mid Lothian remains at level 3. The success in suppressing the coronavirus COVID-19 cases in East Lothian will see the local authority move down a protective level tomorrow. That's Tuesday at 6 a.m. However, an increase in positive cases will leave Mid Lothian in level 3. So the First Minister has said, I know that's disappointing to people in Mid Lothian. However, it's better than moving down a level only to possibly have to move back up again in a week's time. And now on to the rest of tonight's programme. And of course, if you'd like to join the conversation here, you can do so on Twitter by following us at BroadcastScot and using the hashtag Scotland@7. Now to tonight's main stories. The First Minister has launched a Scottish National Investment Bank. The Scottish National Investment Bank has officially opened for business with the completion of its first major investment. It is the UK's first mission-led development bank and is being capitalised by the Scottish Government with £2 billion over 10 years. The bank's proposed missions will focus on supporting Scotland's transition to net zero, extending equality and opportunity through improving places and harnessing innovation to enable Scotland to flourish. It will provide patient capital, a form of long-term investment for businesses and projects in Scotland, and capitalise further private sector investment. Today's £12.5 million investment in the Glasgow-based laser and quantum technology company M Squared Lasers will support the company's further growth in Scotland and speaks to the bank's proposed core missions. The First Minister, Nicola Sturgeon, said the Scottish National Investment Bank will help to tackle some of the biggest challenges we face now and in the years to come delivering economic, social and environmental returns. It's hitting the ground running with its first major investment in M Squared Lasers, a great example of the ambitious and innovative companies we have here in Scotland that will be the key to our economic recovery and future prosperity. The launch of the bank is one of the most significant developments in the lifetime of this Parliament, with the potential for it to transform, grow and decarbonise Scotland's economy. Well, Sam, this is wonderful news. Many people have talked about this investment bank for years, and the fact that Scotland has had historically underinvestment in its major industries. So this is great news, isn't it?
It's fantastic news, Gordon, and it's been great following, and to see the first investment is with M Squared is just absolutely fantastic. I was reading up a wee bit on it earlier on, And the founder, Dr. Graham Malcolm, had said that science and advanced technologies have a major role to play in Scotland's economic future and to the future of climate change, which is so deadly right, to put it so bluntly. And Scotland has been so innovative up until now. It's always been very an innovative country in terms of, brilliant minds, technology, everything, inventions, the lot. So it's great to see now that we are able to invest in that. And they're talking about the funding that this bank's going to provide to M Squared will be basically in loans in equity purchases, which I think is just fantastic. It just gives us a chance to grow this part of our economy.
So, well, equity purchases, by the sound of it, Sam, means that the Scottish Government or this new bank is actually buying into these businesses. So it makes the public sector a partner in the success of them. How important do you think it is for the public for public money to be used in this way?
Well, the thing is, Gordon, I mean, as long as the public are going to get a return on this, and that's the whole point of it, and then the money goes back in to the communities, and then helps to fund other projects. I believe, you can correct me if I'm wrong in this, Gordon, but I believe this is the type of things that the new bank's going to be doing, is investing in basically businesses, or to encourage businesses regarding going to zero net emissions, and our target for our zero net target climate change. Can't get the words out tonight, because I think we're looking to be at zero in round about 2045. So this is what this bank's going to be doing. I don't know, you can correct me on that if I'm wrong, Gordon.
No, Sam, it sounds like you got it right on the nail there. One of the other interesting phrases in this announcement today was the idea of what they call patient investment. In other words, much longer term investment than normal. I mean, usually when business angels invest in a firm, they expect a return within about 5 years. The Scottish Government is looking much further than that. How important is that longevity, do you think, in keeping these businesses capitalised over longer periods?
Yeah, it does. I mean, you run a business the same as me, Gordon, and the thing is, sometimes when businesses are starting out or starting on a new venture, they need that kind of longer period of time to be able to pay the money back. And this is what it's going to be happening, and it supports the company in developing all these technologies and the workforce as well, because at the moment, especially at the moment with COVID, we don't know what's in the future in terms of people's employment and that kind of area. So yeah, it does help to secure the business's future. And as I say, it's basically the money goes back into the community because we are paying in, not the community as such, but the public sector, because there's public money is being used. If I can get the words out right, yeah.
Fair enough, Sam. Okay, well, listen, that is a good news story, and we're going to move on to yet hopefully another good news story next, and that is that the Oxford AstraZeneca COVID vaccine is up to 90% effective. Now, the COVID vaccine developed by the UK Oxford University and AstraZeneca can protect 70.4% of people becoming ill, and a surprise result up to 90% if a lower dose is first used. The results of the final trial have shown. The Oxford vaccine is the third to produce efficacy results, following Pfizer, BioNTech and Moderna, whose vaccines were made with a different technology. Both of those reported almost 95% efficacy, and Pfizer has applied for a license in the US and the UK. While the Oxford results may not immediately look so good, the scientists say that they're not comparable because they have included people who have become mildly ill as well as seriously ill, unlike the other two. Their vaccine has some big advantages because it is fridge stable, so it's easily transported and used anywhere in the world. It's also substantially cheaper, at about £3 a dose instead of more than £20 for the others. The UK has pre-ordered 100 million doses of the Oxford vaccine, which is central to its pandemic vaccine plans. The production has already begun and 4 million doses have been supplied so far, which cannot be used until the vaccine is licensed. Importantly, Oxford AstraZeneca have already shown that the vaccine works well in older people as in younger groups and is safe. There are early indications it might also help to stop the transmission of the disease. So Sam, this is excellent news, and despite, I think, the slightly lower efficacy figure, which was first published of 70.4%, with a slightly weaker form of the vaccine used in a first shot and then followed by a second shot, seems to be equally as good as the two other companies' offerings. So good news from the point of view of getting these vaccines quickly, I hope.
Yeah, it is, Gordon, and it's good to see so many different companies now all progressing with the vaccine, and hopefully there will be more to come, and then there'll be enough to go round everybody right across the globe, because I think at the moment we're just kind of falling short. But the one thing I found interesting this morning, I was listening in, so I apologise to the viewers. I was half listening in to an interview on Sky about this, and they kind of looking down. It's because she's biting me. Basically, they were talking about they've decided with this vaccine is it's not going to be profit driven. So that's why they're just going to be selling it on for the cost of the production. So it's going to be a lot cheaper and it's going to be more affordable. And the other thing is, as well, as you said there, Gordon, it can be refrigerated rather than frozen. So that's two good points to this vaccine.
I noticed, Sam, that it's also been made very clear in the statement from Oxford AstraZeneca that this vaccine, although they've already bought 4 million doses of it, they can't use it until it's been approved. Now, how important is it, do you think, for this approval to go ahead? I mean, a lot of people have been criticising the speed at which these vaccines have been prepared, but I noticed from reading further today that the Oxford vaccine has been tested since May, so they've been testing it for a long time. How confident are you, Sam, that they've covered all the bases? Would you feel comfortable about taking this vaccine, knowing what you know now?
Yes, I would. Up until a week ago, I was fairly sceptical. But in the last week, I've been looking up the mRNA technology and how they've come about it, and how the vaccine works, and how it basically when it goes into the body, and how I'm going to use non-technical terms here, so I apologise. But basically, it goes into the body and it kickstarts the immune system, but there's no actual live virus. Whereas with normal vaccines, there is a live virus, so you get your side effects, you get things that may happen later on. Because it's an actual live virus that they're using. Whereas with this, because of the mRNA technology, it's not a live virus, so the risk of side effects is reduced. Obviously, we don't know, or they don't know regarding long-term effects. That's going to be something that people are going to have to make a decision on the risk. But going by what I've read up, I'm fairly confident, yeah, I would go and get the vaccine. And yeah, they've got, even though they have been very quick, it's because of this new technology. But yeah, they need to make sure that they're going through all the safety procedures as they can. And, it's got to be done right. It's got to be done right, because if it's not done right, that is a mass amount of population that will have received these vaccines if they find that there's something they've missed. And I think we're just going to have a bit of hope and faith and trust in this one.
Okay, Sam. Well, I think we will, but it sounds very promising from the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine team. And now to England, which is facing new tiers to replace COVID lockdown. Boris Johnson has set out new measures to replace the national lockdown to tackle COVID-19 pandemics in England from December the 2nd, strengthening a tiered regional approach to reflect differences in infection rates. We're not going to replace the national measures with a free-for-all. We're going to go back instead to a regional tiered approach, applying the toughest measures where COVID is most prevalent, Johnson told Parliament. Now, Sam, this, when I read it, I don't know about you, struck me as a little bit as if the Prime Minister was copying Nicola Sturgeon's approach by going for more tiers in their tiered system. Do you think perhaps that Mr Johnson has been watching the way Scotland has been dealing with this and thought there might be some merit in it?
Well, it is a bit more common sense, isn't it, Gordon, rather than the approach that England has taken. Yeah, I mean, I'm going to say, yeah, he probably is following Nicola's lead, but I'm sure Boris Johnson's not going to admit that, and he's going to turn around and possibly say that he came up with the idea first. It's just that Nicola implemented it first. But at the end of the day, they're going to have to come up with a better system than what they've come up with beforehand. But then again, Gordon, who are we to say what system's better and what system's not? Every country's got to cater it for themselves, really.
Well, of course, Sam, there's been some widely publicised events, particularly I remember one in Manchester with people who have resisted the restrictions, particularly with regard to masks and protesting about the closure of pubs and restaurants. Do you think perhaps Mr Johnson's statement on having specific tiers for specific areas where instances are higher is a better approach rather than the sort of one-size-fits-all?
Yeah, it probably is a better approach, because then you're taking it from council area to council area or region to region, whereas just turning around and locking down a full country is not going to work. And the problem is you're always going to get people resistant to wearing, whether it's face masks or whatever. There's so many conspiracy theories on the internet right now. It's everywhere. But people need to do their own homework. It's not for me to sit here and basically lecture people on what they should believe and not believe. But however, they need to do their homework and be careful with a lot of these conspiracy theories and where they're coming from. Some of these people do have alternative motives. But at the end of the day, it's not about taking away your human right of freedom. As I read the other day, how oppressed do people feel that they're complaining about wearing a face mask when there's people around the world who are suffering from real oppression. Oppression's not getting forced to wear a face mask. It's not getting told that you need to socially distance in order to protect yourself. At the end of the day, there's a bit of common sense. If someone's got a cold or a flu or chickenpox or measles or any other of these contagious illnesses, we generally stay away from them. It's something we do. We don't walk up and start cuddling them and passing these illnesses on. So what's the difference with COVID? It's highly more contagious. Not everybody's immune system is able to fight it off. So and it's the long-term effects that we still don't quite understand with COVID. So, and I think part of the problem is the way Boris Johnson and the UK government have actually dealt with it. They made it into a joke to start with, rather than taking it serious, and that's what a lot of people have taken on board and used to their advantage when it comes to their human rights and being supposedly suppressed, and it's just like, yeah. No.
Well,
they need to kind of be an adult here and take responsibility.
Well, one of the complaints we often hear, Sam, is that groups who have parties or have these big raves and get-togethers are spoiling it for the rest of us, because when they do that and the infection rates go up, then more lockdown measures are placed on the rest of us. And I think, I don't know about you, but I think if there's one area where people are doing these kinds of activities in cities, then it's those areas that really need to be suffering the heaviest restrictions. Would you agree with that sort of attitude, that it's not fair for one group of individuals to spoil it for the rest of us?
But you're always going to get that no matter what, Gordon, no matter which part of society you look at. Unfortunately, that's human behaviour. But yeah, I agree with you. If people in certain areas are doing it, and not even so much in the areas, if the police go to a house where having a huge party, just put an automatic restriction on them and turn around and say, right, for 2 weeks you can't leave, you can stay in this house and stay here. But no doubt somebody will say that's you removing my freedom of rights. But however, in saying that, when these people start mingling about, it's not necessarily them it's maybe in danger of catching the virus, it's the elderly people, it's people that are vulnerable, it's people with weakened immune systems, that's the ones that are in danger. And that's the thing that people are not getting right now. And it just boils my blood to say that people just can't understand that they might be fine, but it's the most vulnerable in our society who may not be fine. Sam, and we all have a responsibility.
Recently in social media, George Galloway, the politician, tweeted that he said he was planning to enter Scotland to do some home improvements on his house in the borders, and that he wasn't going to pay any fine as a result of doing that. What do you make of that kind of behaviour in a politician, Sam?
Is he an actual politician, Gordon?
Well, he used to be.
I used to be. Basically, at the end of the day, let him dig his hole. That's what he's going to do, and then he's got to deal with the consequences. So if he's making that choice and that decision, and then he's got to deal with the consequences. And hopefully, if the police are aware and that this is what he's doing, then he is dealt with appropriately, whether it's a fine or charged or whatever. He refuses to pay the fine, then he's got to go and stand in front of a sheriff and explain, and then the sheriff's got to make the decision to whether or not he has went out his way to break the law. But the man, as far as I'm concerned, is not even worth talking about. He's just another clown that just riles. He likes to rile people up, and he's basically an attention seeker. And I've got absolutely no time for the man whatsoever.
Fair enough, Sam. Fair enough. I think that's very clear from your comments. Okay, let's move on now. And Boris Johnson is under fire this week over no place for bullying claims. Now, Boris Johnson has been accused of double standards after writing to ministers and senior civil servants claiming that there is no place for bullying in the wake of a damning investigation into the Home Secretary, Priti Patel. The Prime Minister and the Cabinet Secretary Simon Case wrote a joint email on Monday calling for relationships of mutual trust and respect between politicians and their officials. On Friday, Johnson broke with precedent and refused to sack Patel after an inquiry concluded that she had broken the ministerial code following bullying allegations across 3 government departments. Sir Alex Allen, the Prime Minister's advisor on ministerial standards, quit his post after Johnson contradicted his report by vigorously defending the Home Secretary and keeping her in her role. Dave Penman, the head of the FDA union that represents senior civil servants, said that the Prime Minister's latest words would do little to reassure public servants. In August 2019, he set out in precise terms in the foreword to the ministerial code that there must be no bullying and no harassment, Penman said. In the first test of his commitment to these words, he's transparently chosen partisan political interest over the interests of the victims of the Home Secretary's behaviour, as well as the broader standards that should rightly be expected of ministers. Well, Sam, this is another, if we needed another story of double standards in public life. Now, Boris Johnson, as the head of the civil service had said, had very clearly outlined his opposition to bullying in the foreword to the ministerial code. So how is it that Priti Patel manages to get away with bullying her co-workers in 3 different departments and nothing happens?
It's just beggars belief, isn't it? It's just beggars belief. It says everything about this government. Do as I say, not as I do. They're very much try to find the words without saying bad words. Gordon.
There must be something civilised you could say, Sam.
Yes, it's like there's so many things I could say, but they all involves bad words. Anyway, and I can't do that because this is before the watershed, and we are a respectable show. So anyway, but yeah, she's a narcissist. Johnston is just a clown, and they couldn't care less about what they do and what actions. What their actions have consequences or anything like that. They just do not care. And it doesn't surprise me. There was no way Johnson was going to do anything with Priti Patel. There was no way that she was going to be held to account with this. And she's quite literally got away with bullying people, the ones we know about. And no doubt, people like that just don't suddenly turn into bullies. There'll be a history there somewhere along the line, going right back, and it's just disgusting. The quicker we get away from this, the better. It's just disgusting behaviour, it really is.
Do you think, Sam, the ministerial code, which, as I understand it, is a voluntary code, needs some teeth? It needs a body to enforce it, surely. If the Prime Minister won't sack her, then surely Parliament ought to have the right to do that.
Gordon, do you really see Boris Johnson putting a motion forward to give the ministerial code a bit of teeth to be able to do something? At the end of the day, it suits him. It suits him. It suits his whole cabinet. It suits the Tories right now. They're just... as long as they're getting whatever they want to achieve, then they couldn't give about anybody else. Yes, one of those ones.
So you think, Sam, it's a bit like, well, if I was to quote Captain Barbosa from Pirates of the Caribbean, they're not so much rules as guidelines.
Oh yeah, they're guidelines. And the thing is, with guidelines, you don't need to follow them, do you? As Cummings proved a way back in, when was that? March, April? So yes, guidelines, aye. It's okay for them to not follow, but the rest of us, we've got to sit here and follow.
Okay, Sam, thank you. Okay, let's move on now. And the Irish Prime Minister is apparently hopeful of a Brexit trade deal outlined by the end of the week. The Irish Prime Minister, Michael Martin, said today that he hoped that the outline of a Brexit free trade deal will have emerged by the end of the week. And he urged unprepared smaller Irish exporters to get ready for change, whether there is a deal or not. The European Union's Brexit negotiator said on Monday that big differences persisted, but that both sides were pushing hard for a deal as talks resumed. Moves will have to be made on some of the key issues, such as fisheries and the so-called level playing field, Martin said. But he agreed that, but he added that he had got a sense of progress from both the negotiating teams, and a presentation last week from the EU Commission President, Ursula von der Leyen, was probably one of the more hopeful to date. I would be hopeful that by the end of this week that we could see the outlines of a deal, but that remains to be seen. It's down to practical will on both the United Kingdom, and I'm clear that the political will is there from the European Union, Martin told reporters. On a visit to Dublin Port, Ireland's largest freight and passenger port, Martin said that while 94% of Irish importers from the UK and 97% of exporters had completed the necessary customs paperwork to continue trading with Britain, he was worried that the take-up among some of the smaller and medium-sized firms. So Sam, the Irish Prime Minister seems optimistic that there might be a trade deal between the EU and the United Kingdom. Realistically, Sam, what do you think the Prime Minister's team can achieve? Is there likely to be a big breakthrough, or do you see something less than that?
Oh, Gordon, why are you asking me this? This is a Tory government. Crikey, their team. Oh, yeah, we've really seen a lot of progress made by them up until now, haven't we? I would love to say, yes, there's going to be a wonderful breakthrough. It's going to be great. It's going to be wonderful, all singing, dancing, and yeah, this is the UK government, Gordon.
So in reality, Sam, what do you think?
I don't have hope. I'm sorry. I don't have hope.
Well, there has been talk from the British side, Sam, about the so-called skinny deal, whatever that may be, which sounds to me like a sort of emaciated version of a trade deal.
A skinny deal, that sounds like a skinny coffee, does it not? One of those skinny coffees, or whatever they're meant to be, but yeah.
Well, by the sound of this, it will be a decaffeinated skinny latte version.
Well, we all know decaffeinated coffee is just not the same as the real thing. So all I can say is a skinny deal. Oh my goodness, just beggars belief.
It's interesting, Sam, what Mr. Martin was saying about the readiness of Irish companies to deal with the United Kingdom, that over 94% of importers and 97% of exporters in Ireland were actually already ahead with the paperwork. We're not hearing the same from the British companies, are we?
No, this is the thing, though, Gordon, when you kind of look into this with all the Brexit talks and everything, all the different companies and, in the European Union are, they're so wanting to do deals, they're so wanting to, keep on networking and doing business and so forth. And then you get to the UK and
yes.
It just goes flat. It's like that hope just...
All right, Sam. Well, I'm sensing a sort of air of hopelessness in your voice here, Sam.
Yes, I mean, come on. This is why we need independence, so we can be part of that and we can do these wonderful trade deals and work with these wonderful people and, and import and export with these wonderful countries and all these wonderful companies and all that. Yeah, but England just seemed to,
Okay.
It just, no.
All right, Sam. Well, listen, thank you for that rather downbeat appraisal of their chances of a new trade deal with the EU. Now moving to America, Biden's team takes shape as Trump's hopes of overturning the election fade. President Donald Trump's hopes of reversing its election loss are hanging by a thread today, as Michigan and Pennsylvania look to push ahead with certifying the results, while President-elect Joe Biden filled more top jobs in his incoming administration. Trump lost both the election battleground states in the November the 3rd vote, but he has refused to concede defeat and is fighting a legal battle to overturn the results there and in other close races across the country. Joe Biden beat Trump in Michigan by more than 150,000 votes, or almost 3 percentage points, and the election canvassing board is required to validate the count. But it's unclear whether the process will work as the law dictates when the board meets today. A deadlock would likely force the matter to a state appeal courts, where an order would be sought to compel the board to perform its duty. If the members refuse, the governor, Gretchen Whitmer, a Democrat, has the authority to replace them. Today is also the deadline in Pennsylvania for counties to report their certified tallies to the Secretary of State, Kathy Brockvar, who is likely to certify the results on behalf of the state in a matter of days. Biden won Pennsylvania by more than 80,000 votes. Electors in each state will convene as the Electoral College on December the 14th to formally select the next president. Biden won 306 electoral votes, 36 more than the 270 threshold needed to win. Meanwhile, President-elect Biden, working in his home state of Delaware, has pushed ahead with his transition plans, despite the lack of cooperation from the current administration. Ron Klain, the incoming White House Chief of State, yesterday said that Biden will announce his first cabinet picks on Tuesday. Antony Blinken will be tapped as the US Secretary of State, a person close to the transition team said, elevating a seasoned and trusted Biden aide who will work on helping to undo Trump's America First foreign policy. Blinken's appointment makes another long-term Biden aide of foreign policy background, Jake Sullivan, the top candidate to be the US National Security Advisor. Biden has chosen another veteran diplomat, Linda Thomas Greenfield, who held the top diplomatic post in the Obama administration as US ambassador to the United Nations, according to media reports yesterday. Biden also said last week that he had chosen a Treasury Secretary and would announce the person near the November 26th Thanksgiving holiday. Former Federal Reserve Chief Janet Yellen is said to be the top candidate. Biden has today named Rema Dodin and Shawanza Goff as deputy directors of the White House Office of Legislative Affairs, which coordinates legislation with Congress. Dodin and Goff have served as top legislative strategists for Democratic Senator Dick Durbin and Democratic House Representatives Majority Leader Steny Hoyer, respectively. So, Sam, it seems that Joe Biden is moving ahead despite the petulance of the current incumbent of the White House. I know that we watched these developments with a mixture of amusement and bewilderment as to how the Americans ever managed to put together a government at all. I don't think anybody in the history of American presidents has ever refused to concede defeat in this way. I don't think I've ever heard of this. Have you?
I haven't, but the expert in this one is Kenny, because Kenny follows American politics quite a lot.
Indeed,
but
yes.
yeah, so but no, it's just bizarre, isn't it? It's just I mean, what happened to accepting defeat graciously? And at the end of the day, he served his time. If he believes in democracy, then you graciously stand aside. And Biden's doing the correct thing by carrying on regardless, as he needs to do. It's as if Trump's taken trying to take some tips from Lukashenko. Yeah, I said it right.
Lukashenko, well done.
I know, I'm quite proud of myself. So yeah, is he? It's just bizarre, isn't it? It's just, you wonder how it's going to play out. And yeah, as you said, I mean, we sit here and we watch it with a certain amount of amusement, but it's not funny, really. It's actually quite sad, scary, terrifying. It's like, what's going to happen next? How's Trump supporters going to react? Because there's some scary people there amongst Trump supporters. So yeah, you wonder how the citizens of America are feeling about this. It's kind of uncertain times ahead of them on top of a pandemic. It's something they really don't need right now. They need unity, and what's happening is the opposite.
Okay, Sam, thanks for that. A good appraisal, I think, of the current situation in American politics. And now we're moving from American politics to the Middle East. Netanyahu has held a secret meeting with the Saudi Crown Prince. Benjamin Netanyahu has made an unannounced trip to Saudi Arabia to meet the Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman and the US Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, according to an Israeli cabinet minister. The Sunday night visit marks the first reported meeting between leaders of the long-term foes for regional acceptance. Beg your pardon, let me read that again. It marks the first reported meeting between leaders of the long-term foes, one that Israel has been pushing for in its efforts for regional acceptance, despite previously being considered a far-fetched ambition. Hebrew language report, citing unnamed Israeli officials, said that Netanyahu was accompanied by Yossi Cohen, the head of the country's Mossad spy agency. The Israeli Prime Minister's office did not respond to a request for comment, and the Saudi Arabian Foreign Minister, Prince Faisal bin Farman Al Saud, tweeted, "No such meeting occurred." However, if there was any agreement to keeping the meeting secret, possibly to save Saudi Arabia's leadership from facing anger from its pro-Palestinian population, it was soon broken in Israel. On Monday afternoon, the Education Minister, Yoav Gallant, a member of Netanyahu's security cabinet and his Likud party, confirmed the face-to-face had actually taken place. Again, some remarkable things happening in the Middle East, Sam. Who would have thought, even 2 or 3 years ago, that the Israeli Prime Minister, and even more remarkable, his head of Mossad, should fly for secret meetings in Saudi Arabia? It's incredible, isn't it?
It is, and it's so volatile. And the thing is for Israel to confirm that a meeting took place after Saudi Arabia denied the meeting took place doesn't help in terms of trust on any side. It's just, what can I say? It's on one hand you can turn around and say, yeah, it's good they're meeting, and on the other hand you can say they're not exactly doing anything to instill trust with any side or anyone in the Middle East. If you've got sides denying that meetings took place and sides saying that a meeting did take place, it just seems a mess. It's just, Chris is the best one to speak about the Middle East and Israel and all that. To me, as an outsider just looking in, I don't have much knowledge in the Middle East. It just seems crazy, the fact that you've got the two different parties saying different things. It doesn't instill trust anywhere.
Sam, of course, Donald Trump famously had quite a lot to do with this, didn't he? Because shortly after he announced that the American consulate was moving from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, which was a very inflammatory thing for them to do at the time. He then went on to supposedly broker this peace agreement with the Saudi Arabians and the Israelis. And of course, he's claimed this as a major foreign policy victory. Do you not believe that this is an advantageous thing? Do you think there's something more going on here that we're not being told about?
I don't know. I honestly don't know, God. And I really don't know how to comment on that. I really don't know. The Middle East is just such there's just so much tension. There's so much going on over there. I don't feel comfortable commenting
No, that's
on
all right,
it.
it's a sensitive subject, yeah.
It's a very sensitive subject, and there's so much people adding fuel to the fire that's just not needed. Rather than coming up with solutions.
The Saudi Arabians have traditionally been the supporters of Palestine, haven't they, Sam? So this, I mean, the Palestinians must see this as a major betrayal.
Yeah, they will. As I say, it's adding. It's just adding flames to the fire, and it's such a sensitive area right now. It just seems to be people. To me, it's like people are just trying to stoke up the flames, and as I say, it's such a sensitive subject. I would rather not comment too much.
Okay, Sam, that's okay. We don't want to force the issue. Anyway, let's move on now. And something of a good news story for a change, and a strengthening of support for children and young people. A national advocacy service has been launched to reinforce the rights of children involved in children's hearing system. The service, backed by £1.5 million in the 2020-2021 year, means that children and young people will be offered support to express their needs and their views on decisions that affect their lives. A children's hearings advocacy expert reference group was set up to support the design, delivery and implementation of the service, which will be offered Scotland-wide by 10 third sector providers. Oh, I beg your pardon. The funding will support the training and the provision of advocacy workers. Now, Sam, I know this is a subject which is quite close to your heart, children and young people and their rights and the way that they are treated. Now, this obviously looks at children who have come to the attention of the children's hearings system. So they're already vulnerable and perhaps already on the verge of, their life path going the wrong way. How important is this kind of thing to intervene at that point and to help these children to redirect their lives in the right way?
Yeah, it is extremely important, because the thing is, what people don't understand, a lot of people don't understand, a lot of people do understand, but a lot of times children, when they are upset or in situations they don't understand, they basically start to show what we call bad behaviour. That's how they deal with situations that they don't generally understand, their emotions can't cope with. And trying to, when there's a situation where it involves a full family, it's very difficult to then, what you need to do is support the whole family unit. And sometimes what happens is the adults get supported.
Yeah.
And everything's in place for the adults, but there's very little there for the children. And it doesn't really work its way down. Or sometimes the support's there for the children, but not there for the adults. So it's very important that there's support there for the full family unit. But this is brilliant because so many kids find it hard to explain what's going on in their wee heads and what they're feeling. So sometimes they will, as I say, they express it in different ways, and it's very good them telling their parents or a teacher or whatever, but these people could be too emotionally involved. So you need somebody else that's, it's a step outside the family, and can advocate for the children and speak on behalf of the children. Because sometimes we forget as adults, children are still learning. They're not equipped to deal with the adult life. They are learning. It's our job there to guide them and teach them and support them. And there is times where children are thrown into the adult world, and it's through no fault of anybody. Sometimes it's just an unfortunate series of events, and it throws children into the adult world, and they don't know how to deal with it. They don't know how to break it down, and then you get bad behaviour or really a behaviour that's a bit different from their wee character, and so they end up becoming, getting highlighted to the children's hearings and social work and so forth. But again,
Sam, what I was going to say there, Sam, is that listening to what you were saying, if an adult gets into trouble and falls foul of the law and they're charged with something, they're instantly given representation, aren't they? They're given a lawyer to speak for them. But children who are below the age of criminal responsibility, they don't have that. So is this some way of giving those children somebody to speak for them, nothing to do with their parents?
It's basically somebody to explain and advocate for them and put what's been going on in their wee life into words, into adult words.
I see.
If you see, how many times do you see people going up to court and it's like they've had the background reports, and they go right back to their upbringing, and then they'll get support, they'll get all the help that there is. Children, yes, they'll get a social worker, but social workers are so overworked just now. And especially at the moment, but even before COVID, they were so overworked and understaffed. There's so little funding in the social work services. So there's kids and young people who are not receiving support that should be receiving support. And also as well, the service needs to be opened up, not for children who have maybe, the thing is I'm going to rephrase that, scrap that previous sentence, but a lot of people believe that the hearings and support for kids is for kids who have maybe get into trouble.
Yeah.
But a lot of the times, you know, parents, I mean, I know I've done it where I feel that my child has needed extra support, nobody's listening, I can't get help, and I have went to the children's reporter myself. And people don't realise that you do that as a parent. If your child needs support and you're not getting it, you can actually approach the children's reporter yourself and say, I need help to support my child. This is a situation. I'm getting doors closed on me because of lack of funding, lack of resources, blah, blah, blah. Where do I go? And the children's reporter is then there to be able to offer advice and put you in the right direction and the right services. And a lot of parents don't realise that they can do that themselves. They think that they've got to wait until it escalates, until something happens.
Sam,
and they don't realise that they can do that.
Just one final question, Sam. Do you think then that the appointment or the arrangement of this advocacy for children, does this complete the support, or do you think there's still some areas where there's some room for further improvement? Would this complete it, do you think?
There's always going to be room for improvement, Gordon, always, because the thing is, we can't pigeonhole everybody, we can't paint everybody with the same brush. There's always going to be circumstances with kids and young people and families that they'll be, we've missed. There's always going to be something, and we're never going to get it perfect. We can get as close to perfect, but we're never going to get it perfect. But the main thing is we as a society and as a country are moving in the right direction for providing support for where it's needed. And that's what's important. And hopefully that's a step in the right, this will be a step in the right direction to get more support in other areas as well.
Okay, Sam, listen, thank you very much for that. We're just moving to our final story now, and I suppose this is in some way related a little bit to children and young people. And that is that the Residential Outdoor Education Centres Fund is to open. A fund to help residential outdoor education centres to mitigate the effects of the coronavirus COVID-19 crisis opens for applications today. Centres which are facing financial challenges can apply for funds to help with running costs and to enable staff to deliver outdoor learning both in and around schools. Now, again, Sam, this is something very important to children, isn't it? Because I mean, we can teach them in school settings, but children need to be active as well. They need some fun and adventure in their lives. And they haven't really had that during the COVID emergency, have they?
No, they haven't. It's a wee shame. I feel sorry for them. Kids need to be kids. They need to be able to be a wee bit mischievous, but in a safe environment. They need to be able to go and jump about in the mud and climb trees and jump in puddles or go canoeing or whatever it is. And it's so important. It's just a shame that there was nothing was around a couple of years ago, because there was an outdoor centre at, oh crikey, mine's went blank, down in Western Berkshire that got closed because there was lack of funding. I don't know if you can remember the name of it.
I remember there was one up at Ardlui. At the head of the lock. Is that one? Yeah, and it was a big one. It was residential as well, Sam, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was residential and it was fantastic. I mean, personally, I'm one of those parents where I would like to see kids spend only a certain amount of time in a classroom setting and the rest of the time outside and doing forest schools and, and doing all these activities and things, because I think it's very healthy for them, and especially in Scotland. I mean, look at the winter. We have really dry winters, so when it's dry, and take advantage of it and get them outside.
Well, certainly in Scandinavia, Sam, they seem to value outdoor education very highly, and I noticed in Finland recently that the children get as much outdoor education as they get indoor. Half the day is spent outside in the snow, or as you say, climbing trees or hunting for wildlife, or doing field studies in biology or something outside. And they don't care what the weather is. I mean, they go out equipped for it.
Yeah, that's the way it should be. That's what school should be. Education is not just academia, it's so much more. And I think I would like to have seen with COVID that education going more towards that. That's one of my disappointments with
Yeah.
education and what's happened with COVID. That they've kind of stuck with the classroom setting instead
You,
of taking
you would,
advantage and
you,
getting the kids out.
I was going to say, Sam, you would think that it's actually a healthier environment for the children to be outdoors further apart from each other and not in a stuffy classroom when COVID is running rampant through the population. It would be surely healthier and less likely to catch the virus outdoors.
Exactly. I mean, the thing is, if they're outside, I mean, I know where I stay. I mean, I'm in a village. We've got rivers, we've got woodlands, and everything. Yeah, the kids have been going out for the odd wee walk, but apart from that, they've been pretty much stuck in a classroom. And my wee one's back in self-isolation again. And I mean, half the school has been self-isolation since August at some point. So the kids are just, because they're stuck in the classrooms, it's whereas get them out, let them get dirty, let them, go and just get outside, enjoy the fresh air. There's so much more they could be learning, and there is so much more environmental they could be learning. There is history. Scotland is steeped in history. I mean, it doesn't matter which area you go to in Scotland, you'll find a bit of history. So go and teach them, take them and show them the actual where this happened, what if there was a battle, what famous person, take them, show them. Kids love all that. Get them to reenact it. Kids just love that. Obviously, don't give them wooden sticks and things like that, but I know with my wee would maybe take it a bit too far. But just get them involved and get their wee passions going, and just and I mean, you can do maths outside. You can do English outside. You don't need to be in a classroom to do it. And as you said, you can do your sciences outside. You don't need to be in a classroom to do it unless you're doing lab work. So there's no excuse to be in a classroom. I think we've got so complacent about being in a classroom all the time that we think that's education.
Well, Sam, I think that's a good place to end the programme this evening, and I think you're an excellent advocate for outdoor education. Maybe you've missed your vocation.
I'm just a big kid, Gordon. That's what it is. I would be right in there.
Well, anyway, listen, that's about all we have time for this evening. It just remains for me to add my usual plea for you to help us make more programmes. And of course, we have a crowdfunder on the go at the moment. We're trying to raise £100,000 to hire permanent staff to make more high quality programmes for you here on Broadcasting Scotland. So if you're interested in becoming a subscriber, and if you would like to help us and support us with a regular donation, you can do so by following the instructions below here on your screen now. But from here, and from myself and Sam Payton, who has been holding the fort today by herself, a very good night to you. Thanks again, Sam.